One thing y'all have not said thus far as I can tell, is y'all may have amnesia about this mandate. You know, y'all kept talking about how President Trump was reelected and it was a mandate. And y'all aren't talking about the campaign promises. The campaign promise that he made. You see, when we had the Democrats out there, we weren't promising anything about the Epstein files. For all I know, our DOJ was invested in making sure that they could continue to reveal other people that should be held liable. Instead, it was your side that made this a campaign promise. So to now say that we are playing political games when we know that he actually ran on this is a farce. That's number one. Number two, everyone on this committee and everyone in Congress should have an issue with the fact that right now we know that Ghislaine Maxwell has not only been transferred out of her housing in Florida down to somewhere that looks probably a little bit more like Mar-a-Lago in Texas, but now there are conversations about pardoning her. So I think that the American people should have full transparency about what took place when you're talking about someone who went in front of a grand jury and was found to have enough information to go forward and indict her, and then she was convicted, and then she was given 20 years, yet the president is in talks about potentially letting a convicted sex offender out.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here, and do you want to talk about something that has aged about as gracefully as raw milk left out in the hot sun for a few months? Republican amnesia. And let's talk about this brutally honest smackdown that Representative Jasmine Crockett of Texas blasted her GOP colleagues with that left them stinking like a tub of spoiled cottage cheese.
I'm tired of y'all cherry picking one horrible event, because that's what y'all do. Y'all find one terrible situation that took place, and then you say that person's name and you wear it out and you make it political. The reality is this. I got a few names for you if you want to start going through names, and you tell me which one of these names you've decided to do any type of legislation behind. We've got Virginia Guffrey. We've got Annie Farmer. We've got Maria Farmer. We've got Courtney Wild, Michelle Licata, Jenna Lisa Jones, Jennifer Araz, Sarah Ransom, Shantae Davies, Carolyn Adriano. And the reality is that it's our understanding that there may be close to 1,000 victims of Epstein, Maxwell, and others. So stop playing these games and acting like you care about one particular situation. You take a situation and then you exploit what has happened to not only that person, but you exploit those families and you make it a game.
During his campaign, Donald Trump said that he would release the Epstein files. We all saw and heard him, and his MAGA base excited that they were finally going to prove that Pizzagate was real, and Democrats were the bad guys. Every damn one of those toothless morons were screaming about Creepy Joe and making Trump out to look like an angel. Think about it. His minions smelled blood, and they wanted to get to the bottom of it. However, after the election, Trump and his cronies have come up with every distraction, from aliens coming to blast us in November, to the rapture sucking up the MAGA faithful into the clouds, and the sweet by and by to keep them all covered up. It's like we live in the dumbest timeline, and Crockett reminded them all of it.
If you want to start talking about actually solving something, then maybe we should go to the other campaign promises, the ones that allegedly gave y'all a mandate. When he said he was going to lower prices on day one, yet that didn't happen. When he said that he was going to be ending wars on day one, yet that didn't happen. Where he said that he was going to save the American people, yet that didn't happen. Because as we know, in that big ugly bill that every single one of you voted for, except for Mr. Massey, because he seemingly is the only one that's got any sense over there, y'all voted for that bill. And the last time I checked, it's driving us further into debt while kicking people off of their health care, in addition to making sure that billionaires, which I would not be surprised if we start to roll out those names, and a number of those same billionaires, because these weren't $2, well, they weren't $2 John.
So who is towing the party line in Republican BS if the MAGA base is pissed? It's the Republican representatives who have sold out the American people and are doing everything that they can to protect Donald Trump and child traffickers. Look at their votes, and you'll see their hypocrisy in black and white. They have actively been trying to make the lives of Americans harder than ever while promising a golden age of delusions. So if you want to talk about not only amnesia, but aiding and abetting a criminal, ethnic cleansing, killing regulations that protect our food, water, and air, and selling out to billionaires, then there's no doubt that you're talking about Republicans and their hateful, cruel agenda to screw over Americans while raking it in. It's despicable, underhanded, and wrong. And Jasmine Crockett did not let any of them off the hook.
Stop telling us that you care. Show us that you care. Show those survivors that you care. Sign the daggone discharge petition, sit down and hear their stories, and then tell them to their faces that because your leader does not want to talk about this, that is who you have pledged your loyalty to and your fealty to, and you're not going to protect them, and you're not going to protect others that are suffering right now and others that will suffer in the future, and I will yield.
And while Jasmine Crockett is absolutely tearing these people a new one, Donald Trump's out here showing the entire world what an absolute freaking joke he is. He embarrassed the hell out of us yesterday at the UN. First, he whined that someone had stopped the escalator on him like it was a global conspiracy, when in reality it was his own security detail at the top of the stairs. They wanted him to take the other escalator. But of course, in Trump's world, it's always poor Donald. Everybody's picking on me. The man can't even handle an escalator without turning it into a grievance rally. Then come the speech. The teleprompter dies, and suddenly he's freestyling like a drunk uncle at Thanksgiving, rambling about immigrants, quoting Herschel Walker, mixing up China air with bad air here and bad air there. At one point, he literally told other nations they were all going to hell. Can you imagine having a 37% approval rating at home and still strutting onto the world stage to lecture other countries on how to run theirs? That's not leadership. That is absolute dementia with a microphone. And now he's trying to pin the whole mess on the UN when it was his own press crew fumbling the setup. Crockett was inside Congress holding Republicans accountable while Donald Trump was outside turning America into the world's punchline. She reminded them that survivors themselves have testified about fake immigration papers, fake modeling agencies, and even government officials who looked the other way while children were being trafficked. Survivors weren't out here attacking Trump. They were telling their truth. And he had the gall to call them a hoax. That's like turning over a rock and watching the bugs scatter, the guilty run, the liars spin, and the victims get crushed all over again. And Republicans, they cherry pick one name, one story, wear it out on a loop, and turn it into a political football. Crockett shut that down. She said there may be close to 1,000 victims, not just one. And if Republicans actually cared, they'd be writing laws instead of sound bites. Instead, they exploit families for headlines and call it compassion. Here's the difference, though. There's hope. In Virginia, Democrats just held Jerry Connolly's old seat and pledged to push for Epstein file transparency. In Arizona, Adeleta Grijalva just won her father's seat. 2 special elections, 2 fresh voices, and now the GOP majority is even thinner. Politics is arithmetic, and the numbers are finally starting to add up against the cover-up. Republicans want to pretend that Donald Trump kept his promises, but let's actually check the tape. He said he'd lower prices on day one. Where's that at? Go to the grocery store, grab 2 bags that used to be $50, and tell me why it's $200 now. That ain't relief. That's robbery with a smile. He said he'd end wars on day one. Instead, he's out here stumbling through excuses while little Marco Rubio twists himself into a pretzel trying to argue that Trump sort of ended a war, or might end one. The promises were broken. The bills are higher. The wars are still raging. And the only thing Republicans are delivering is spin. Crockett was right to torch them, because if we don't keep receipts, their amnesia will become our reality. If Republicans cared, they'd release the Epstein files and sit down with survivors face to face. That's the baseline. Instead, they hide behind Trump, who broke every campaign promise that they all cheered. He promised to save the American people, but when it came time to deliver, they backed that big, ugly bill. The one that kicks people off of health care, drives us deeper into debt, and fattens billionaire wallets. That's not saving anyone. That's selling us out. And if they really cared, they'd follow the money. Epstein didn't move millions through a lemonade stand. Major banks like J.P. Morgan, Chase processed those transactions, and Jamie Dimon should be answering questions under oath. Survivors deserve more than lip service. They deserve answers about who enabled this network and why the powerful keep getting a pass. So let's call it plain. Republicans protect billionaires, shield their boss, and sacrifice children and families in the process. Release the files. Hear the survivors. Subpoena the bankers. Anything less is complicity. Trump's only real expertise on crime is committing it. He enables it, he covers it up, and he rewards the guilty while punishing everyone else. He shields billionaires, pardons fraudsters, protects a convicted sex trafficker, and turns law and order into a punchline. That's not justice, that's corruption on steroids, and every Republican standing with him is just as guilty. So let's cut through the noise. If they cared, they'd release the files, face the survivors, and hold the powerful accountable. Until then, it's all lies, and that is an absolute fact. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.